Man, that just fires me up. I love that theme music. The Blaze has done such a great job. Welcome back to the Conservative Cartel, Hour 3. We're already into Hour 3. It's unbelievable here this Saturday. We are live from the Nine Line Apparel Studios. If you want to be part of the program, 888-900-3393 on the Black Rifle Coffee Hotline. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Conservative Cartel this morning Austin Petersen, who is currently running for Senate in the great state of Missouri, the Show Me State, against Claire McCaskill, who is an absolute... Look, Austin, first of all, thank you for joining the cartel this morning. And secondly, thank you for running against Claire McCaskill. Now, I know you're a big libertarian. We're going to get into this, but you're running as a Republican. So we're going to jump right into this because I read your article out of a Kansas City newspaper last night. Why the Republican Party, and why are you running against Claire McCaskill?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And yes, I have been accused of being a libertarian before. I do have to admit guilt. Yes, guilty. But I'm running as a Republican because I actually spent 2 months on the phones, made over 4,000 phone calls to my supporters, and I said, should I run? 100% said yes. And then what party should I run under? 98% or more said run as a Republican because they want to beat Claire McCaskill as bad as I do. And I'm running because I want to cut taxes, cut spending, get the federal government off our backs, and overturn Obamacare.
Amen.
That's what I believe. Limited government across the board.
Now, Austin, we got Austin Petersen on the Black Rifle Coffee Hotline. Matt here, got Rocky on the other side. He'll jump in here in a second. You say these things, and I'm sure you've heard this question. You say all these things, and we're listening to politicians campaign, and then you go to the swamp in Washington, D.C., and everything just leaves. Please tell me that's not going to happen.
I'll tell you this. Last year at the Libertarian Party's National Convention, there was an opportunity for me to sell out my principles, and there were witnesses to this. People asked me to support the VP candidate, Bill Weld, who I was not a fan of because of his positions on the Second Amendment. They offered me the world. They offered me everything. They said, if you will just endorse him, we will give you money, a paid position. You can be a surrogate. We'll put you on TV, make you famous. And I said no. And after that, after they bribed, then came the threats. You better do this, you better do that. And that's when I said, no, you guys can stick it because, I'm just a pure ideologue, guys. I believe in liberty. I've taken tons of pay cuts. I've taken the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune for this cause. I've been doing it for 10 years behind the scenes. And, I'm breaking out in the national scene now because I'm sick and tired of people who break their promises. If you want somebody who's going to say one thing and do another, you got two candidates backed by Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell on the Republican and the Democrat side, or you got somebody who's backed by the people who's running for the Republican nomination here in Missouri, and somebody who, when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. And I got plenty of character testimony if you guys take me to court on that.
Oh, preach it. Preach it. Matt, talking our language, Rocky Stucci.
Absolutely. And I want the listeners to hear this because I have an article open here in regards to Austin from the Washington Examiner. And this is what you said. And people listen to this. He says, I believe in these core conservative principles. I've spent my whole career speaking on and fighting for freedom. The freedom to spend as you see fit, worship as you see fit, study as you see fit, and speak as you see fit. As I am eager to partner with liberty-loving Republicans and President Trump in restoring federalism, freedom of faith, and fiscal responsibility in this country. So here's where I stand, is that we have a lot of problems right now in Washington. We have a lot of corruption in Washington. Where do we even start to begin to combat this madness that we're facing today?
Great question. I mean, the heart of all government power comes from government spending. And as we saw last week, Republicans and Democrats in the House of Representatives decide to increase our national debt, increase the deficit, increase spending, and that's the real problem. Right now we're debating tax cuts, but I am disappointed with the fact that we couldn't get our fiscal house in order. If government can't spend, government can't act. I would like to cut spending across the board. I want things like a 15% flat tax. I want to talk about the penny plan. I want to talk about what we can do to get people to have the opportunity to create jobs. I want entrepreneurs to be free to act. And frankly, I'm a fan of what I'm seeing from the tax plan. We're cutting corporate tax rates down to 20%. Small business owners going to get cut down to 25%. We're doubling the standard deduction, which means more people are not paying taxes, which is great. We're almost the whole way there.
Right.
But, I'm running because I want to give people like Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz some backup.
Yes.
We don't just need another Republican, guys. If you want just another Republican, anybody will do. But if you want somebody who is a constitutional conservative, who sticks to their guns, sticks to their principles, and keeps their promises, that's what's important, because we saw what happened with Obamacare after 7 years of broken promises, then I'm the guy from Missouri.
Dude, I think I have a bromance. I'm telling you. I think I love this guy right here. So, Austin, I like the fact I'm a fair, flat tax guy. I think it's unbelievable that our government taxes work, that it taxes hard work. It penalizes you as a taxpayer, as an American, for going out and providing for your family and paying your bills and trying to make a life for yourself. Let's talk a little bit, because you brought it up, and where do you stand on the tax side of it? And you brought up the flat tax. So fill us in on your philosophy on that.
Yeah, can I ask you guys a question?
Absolutely.
If cigarette taxes are meant to discourage people from smoking, what are income taxes supposed to discourage?
From working.
Ooh.
Exactly correct.
Right? A fine is a tax for doing wrong. A tax is a fine for doing well.
That's right.
I mean, we're punishing success in this country, and that's really totally opposed to the American tradition that the Founding Fathers laid out in our Constitution. They had no unapportioned tax. As a matter of fact, George Washington, the way that he funded things like infrastructure was he held a lottery and signed the tickets himself.
Yep.
I'd love to see a world where we get rid of the income tax entirely. That's what I'd like to see. But until then, I'm really nervous about doing things like trying to replace this tax with that tax, because as we've seen, what will happen is that Congress will say, oh, we're going to phase this one out and we're going to put a new one in.
Yep.
Let's focus on cutting the rates. I'm pushing for a flat tax, 15% across the board. Personal income and corporate income tax, 15%. And what I'm seeing from the general outline is getting towards that direction. That's what I'd like to see. I'm always going to vote for that tax cut, but we need spending cuts as well. They need to stop the spending. That's where the real problem lies. And I think that we can make the federal government take a haircut, not just eliminate this or that program. Let's talk about flat spending cuts across the board, 1% out of every dollar. That's the penny plan.
Right.
Let's push for that, put it back on the table. Then let's talk about a balanced budget amendment. We should not be spending more money than we take in. Once we get our fiscal house in order, I want to push for a constitutional amendment. And I think Ted Cruz, and Mike Lee and Rand Paul, those guys have been pushing for that. Listen, you put one more constitutional conservative in there, you're going to tip the balance of power. So let's not put another crony in. Let's not send Claire McCaskill back in. Let's send a true constitutional conservative to provide some fire support to our friends.
Rocky, this is like political porn. I mean, this is like political pornography right now. I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, it's common sense. It's common sense what you're talking, and we don't have near enough of that in Washington, D.C. today. In Austin, what drives me nuts is the Republican Party has started adapting or started accepting the language of the left. We need to pay for tax cuts. No, we don't. We don't need to pay for tax cuts. You cut taxes and then you cut spending. It's not rocket science that we're talking about here.
This has been going on for a long time, since we've been talking about things like compassionate conservatism. I mean, the problem, of course, is that we don't really have two parties in this country. It feels like we've got one party. We've got a left wing with a left wing and a right wing. And one side loves war, socialism, and bailouts, and the other side likes war, socialism, and bailouts.
Yep.
So really, what is the difference? I mean, people wonder, well, Austin, you were a libertarian and now you're a Republican, but I'm pro-life, pro-liberty, pro-constitution. I'm what the Republican Party says they believe.
Right.
Except I actually embody that. So here's the thing: you want a cookie-cutter politician who's just going to say the right things just to get elected. I'm not your guy. If you want somebody to keep the status quo, I'll give you Claire McCaskill's number. I present something radically different, something that is tied to the American traditions of liberty, individualism. You own your life, you own your body, and you ought to be able to do with it as you please, provided you harm no one else.
Austin, I got to stop you right there. We're coming up against the break. Hang tight. We're going to roll through the break here. We've got Austin Petersen on the phone on the Black Rifle Coffee hotline. He's going to come back. We're going to continue talking about Missouri. He's running against Claire McCaskill out there. But hang tight, Austin. We've got about 3 minutes. We'll bring you right back on the other side, and we're going to get into some more stuff because I want to pick your brain on a few more things. So Austin Petersen running for Senate in Missouri. Hang tight. This is the Cartel Saturday morning. We'll be right back.
On the phone, we have from, I don't know if you're supposed to say Missouri or Missouri, but I'm going to go with Missouri, Mr. Austin Petersen. Now, Austin, I got a question for you. I want to start out the segment with this question. I have a friend from Sweden, and I believe they have I can't remember if it's 20%, 30% flat tax rate. It covers healthcare, it covers education, it covers a lot of different things. Now, if we talked about a flat tax rate in our country, which I'm completely in support of, what would be the challenges? Because I understand the difference between somebody like Sweden and Ireland and all these other countries that do a flat tax rate. They don't finance half the world like the United States does, nor are they involved in so many global conflicts like the United States is that cost literally trillions of dollars. So if we went to a flat tax system in the United States, what would be one of the biggest challenges we would be facing?
Well, of course, you've got the big elephant in the room, which is entitlement spending, right? So we spend a fraction of our budget on the military. I think it's like 16%, but I think it's almost half of our budget that's tied up into things like Social Security as well as in Medicare, Medicaid, and prescription drug benefits. So those are big problems we're going to have to address as we have an aging population in this country. But when it comes to Social Security, I'm offering what I think is a reasonable compromise, and they're taking our money in the first place, so they should have to pay it back. But I think that it's not unreasonable that we offer to our young people an option to opt out. If you're at 18 years old, let them opt out of the system. I mean, frankly, why would you want to put money into a retirement account that you're going to get less back? Right? You got to pay the bureaucrat. Right? You're going to have to deal with inflation. So, frankly, I think that that's one option that I'm offering. But, the problem, of course, is that Republicans who want the votes, they're terrified of senior citizens, and they're saying, we're going to take away these benefits. They shouldn't have given it away in the first place. It was never their money to give. And I'm a bit of a hardliner, so I'm willing to take a little bit of heat for that. But I do think we need entitlement reform.
We do.
So we have to get our fiscal house in order. But here's the thing, conservatives, too. How dare you suggest that our patriotic American military can't take a little bit of a haircut, too? I have veterans working for my campaign. I got one who's running my campaign, captain in the U.S. Army, sitting across from me right now, and he knows how screwed up the procurement process is for how we get our equipment, right? It's not that we shouldn't have the strongest military in the world. We absolutely should. But if we are constantly involved in every single civil war across the globe, in Niger, for example, or in Libya, or in Iraq, I think we're not serving our national security interests, and we're not serving our fiscal interests.
Well, Austin, Austin, I want to jump in here, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're making a very good point. And Rand Paul went to the floor of the Senate and said, look, we're dinosaurs. We have big hearts and small brains, and we're giving all of this money in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Libya, and like you're talking about, for what reason? We got big hearts, but yet we're not taking into effect that the biggest national security threat, in my opinion right now, is our national debt.
Yeah, well, what makes me angry is that, a lot of times people that I sympathize with, they say, well, I'm so tired of American empire. What empire? I mean, every empire in history always took money from their vassal states. Instead, we're doing the opposite. We're controlling all of these governments around the world, and we're actually subsidizing them. I mean, Donald Trump talked about taking Iraqi oil. I mean, that's how they used to do it, right? I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that I'm sick and tired of us having to pay to build bridges and then blow them up in Iraq, and we got them falling down here at home. I believe in America first. We should be taking care of American interests first, and then we get our fiscal house in order before we start trying to remove the speck of dust from our neighbors' eyes.
Well, Austin, we got Austin Petersen here on the Black Rifle Coffee Hotline. Matt here. I got a question for you because here's a question I have. Where do you stand on Obamacare, health care? Are veterans not getting care? I mean, we've got 22 veterans committing suicide daily. The VA is in shambles because it's ran by the government, and it's been nothing but corrupt and just completely overran. And you talked about America First, but how do you stand on Obamacare, the VA, on health care in general in this country?
Well, every veteran I know, and this might be selection bias, it tells me that if you want a perfect example of why American health socialized medicine doesn't work, you look at the VA. But on the other note, when you talk about Obamacare, you're talking to a two-time victim of Obamacare. President Obama lied to us. He said that if we liked our plan, we could keep it. And then a few months later, my plan was canceled. I was paying $96 a month with a $1,500 deductible for a good plan. Then my premiums were quadrupled. My deductible septupled, and next year I don't even have insurance because now Humana can't afford to offer individual plans. So frankly, I think that what Rand Paul did when he offered the president a very reasonable expansion of the 1971 ERISA Act, which essentially allows individuals to purchase insurance in pools across state lines, just like corporations can. Hey, you want to call corporation people, as the Supreme Court has? Fine. Then let people, individuals, do the same thing corporations can do. Let us buy into pools. And hey, look at the stock market. It's soaring, except for insurance company stocks, because now they know they better start getting some competition. They better start getting competitive. People need to have choices in their healthcare system. I am all for choice. We need to have more choices. And don't forget, health insurance doesn't mean health care.
That's right.
They promised us health insurance. That doesn't mean you're going to get care. Doesn't mean you're going to get a doctor. So frankly, I think we need to let Obamacare continue to fail. We need to pass legislation to remove it appropriately and let the free market work in healthcare like it does in everywhere else.
It's fantastic, Rocky Stucci. What you got on the other side there, big guy?
Well, you know, I was going to hit on healthcare, but you wrapped it up extremely well. And there's another topic that we talk about vigorously on this program, and that is our immigration crisis that we have in this country. We talk about amnesty, we're talking about DACA. But my biggest concern when it comes to the whole immigration issue and the amnesty issue is that right now, we used to talk about there used to be a time in our country where one man could sustain a family and send his children to school and pay for a house and pay for a vehicle and live a pretty decent life. Now we have, two parents working two jobs just to be broke. And when we're talking about amnesty, and we're talking about DACA, and we're talking about illegal immigration in this country, we're seeing what California is doing and other states and what they're doing. They're literally attacking the labor market in this country. Now, what used to be a time where somebody could make $30 an hour at a job, they're lucky to make $15 or $14 an hour right now. So what I would like to get your opinion on is the amnesty situation we have in this country, the DACA situation, and what are your thoughts in regards to that in our labor market?
Well, don't blame the immigrant who's trying to create a better life for themselves.
Absolutely.
Blame the government who has created the incentive. And when you talk about people and their diminishing incomes, let's take a look right at the heart of the problem. The Federal Reserve has been devaluing the money in this country. I think the dollar, since 1913, the Federal Reserve was created, the dollar has been devalued over 90%. Now, think about who's been harmed by that. Seniors, people who are on fixed incomes, right? They're not going to get an increase in their wages or salaries, right? But yet the purchasing power of their money is diminishing. So I say take a look at what the government has done. Now, they're incentivizing people to break the law with our current immigration problem. If people complain about open borders, well, that's what we have right now. What I'm advocating for, and you cannot have open borders in a welfare state, what I'm advocating for is something that every European immigrant like mine came through Denmark, they came through Ellis Island. I'm advocating for something that would return to that kind of a procedure, which if you are not a terrorist and if you do not carry an infectious disease, you can go through that security checkpoint and you can begin the process of naturalization. You create an incentive there for people to obey the law, because if they have to go something like we did with Ellis Island, then they know that they're going to have to obey the law. And anybody else who may have malign interests or is a security threat, well, those people absolutely have no right to enter this country. But unfortunately, the problem, of course, is that the two major parties agree. Republicans want the labor, Democrats want the votes.
That's right.
And people accuse me of being open borders just because I think, immigrants, we want immigration just just like the Founding Fathers did. If we're the greatest country in the world, and I believe we are, then people are going to want to move here. But unfortunately, because of the deadlock and because of the intellectual dishonesty on the behalf of our elected leaders, we have had a system that doesn't benefit anyone. It hurts American workers and it hurts the immigrants, but the government is the problem.
Well, Austin, Matt here. One last question. We have Austin Petersen. He's running for Senate in the state of Missouri against Claire McCaskill on the Black Rifle Coffee hotline. Wall or no wall?
You know what? That's a good question. And what you're really asking me is, do I want a massive FDR-style public works program on the southern border that's going to raise taxes, raise spending, and steal land from Republicans in Texas? So the answer to that is unequivocally no, and that may cost me support. But you know what? At least I'm not going to lie to you. You may not always agree with me, but you're always going to know where I stand. And the problem, of course, is that we're going to have to maintain it in the future. I've spoken to architecturalists. It's going to be government always costs way more than they say it is. Economics is about incentives, right? Right now, we're incentivizing people to break the law, but because we do not have the types of reforms that are going to make people think, okay, well, if I have to wait 25 years to become an American citizen, well, screw it, I'm going to go ahead and cross the border. But if I know that I can submit to a simple process of naturalization, because I'm not a security risk and I'm not a disease risk, then we'll get the people that we want. And you cannot offer the kind of welfare incentives that socialist Europe has had. We are not socialist Europe. We are not going to give up our liberties. We do not offer welfare programs to immigrants. We don't offer them to Americans either. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But we need to say what we believe and believe what we say and do what we say. But the cowards in the swamp are not going to do anything until they get somebody who's going to get up there and kick them in the pants and be honest about our problems. Now, again, like I said, may not be popular what I'm saying right now, especially to this audience, but I am not afraid. And you just know when you send me to Washington, D.C., you're going to know where I stand. You're going to get a lot of people who are going to tell you one thing, and then when they get to D.C., they're going to do another, just like the Attorney General that I'm running against right now. Campaigned against climbing ladders and running for higher office. Boom, gets elected, goes straight to D.C., meets with McConnell, does the opposite.
Hey, Austin, I got to get in here. We got 1 minute. Tell people where they can find you, how they can help you. What do we do for you?
Yeah, anybody who wants to help me take over the government, to leave everyone alone, go to austinforsenate.com, austinforsenate.com. And Glenn Beck told me I should always say it 3 times, austinforsenate.com.
I love it. And Austin, thank you. You're always welcome on the cartel. We love freedom. We love liberty.
Thanks,
That's
guys.
what we stand for. Great interview. Thank you for your time. Austin Petersen from the great state of Missouri. Go vote for him.